was wrong about Bayonetta 3. Wrong enough to the point where I have to make a second essay about this game after I just finished a review for it not even a week ago. Saying things like,
game should not be on the Nintendo Switch.
And also,
these combats right here with this weird Godzilla fight style are absolutely terrible.
And also taking good jabs at stuff like this.
This game, the writers had zero intention of easing you into the game at all.
If you ever watched the first video that I did about Bayonetta 3, I very highly suggest that you watch that video. First, this video is based on a lot of things that I said about the first essay that I did that I kind of want to clean up, and I want to say a lot of good things that happened in this game that I kind of forgot about or that got overshadowed. But like I said, I truly thought about it, and I was really tough on Bayonetta. Not to mention the fact that I wasn't even halfway decent at the game until about 8 hours in. So who am I to review or talk about something when I didn't even master or give the game the full shot it deserved? I really let certain occurrences in the game, in quote, trigger me, and use that to shadow all the great and amazing stuff that Bayonetta 3 has to offer, and that's low-key a shame. I didn't even address about one of the new characters in the game at all, or the few things that I love that was making a wave and that my favorite game at the moment took inspiration from. I think this game wants to do more than just be a game you play just for the story, and it took me all this time to realize it. So without further ado, I'm gonna adjust my clown makeup, tie up my clown shoes, and get ready to talk about the Bayonetta 3 review, part 2. I didn't talk about the new character introduced in this game and didn't even talk about her combat, backstory, nothing. That's kind of foul, knowing that she's actually a very important piece of the game. Viola is a witch in training, and she somehow finds her way into the same dimension that Bayonetta 3 takes a part in. I really love the katana type weapon she wields and the way she fights. To be able to use her witch time to slow down time and move freely to get more hits in and to get a rhythm in combat. The difference from using her than from using Bayonetta is the fact that when she uses her witch time or her dodging ability, it's actually a parry. And I love the parry system so much because I feel like you get into a groove with a lot of the combat with her and you just hit. And then when you parry, instead of feeling like you have to dodge back into the fight, you could leave off where you left off and just keep on hitting and exposing the enemy when they're open after a parry. And I really love that about her. The parrying just felt way more smoother than the dodge, but they're both very, very good. I just personally like the katana a little bit more. She doesn't have a bunch of beats like Bayonetta does, but at the same time, she does have Cheshire. And I like that Cheshire has its own mind and can attack without pressing buttons, and you can focus your energy at the enemies at hand. Bayonetta does get 10 to 12 beasts, but at the same time, I like Cheshire just because she fits well with Viola in the story. I think Bayonetta's beasts don't really have a personality or a style to him, versus Cheshire has his own little mind and his own little things that he does inside of the game. And it fits so perfectly with Viola's story that I'd rather Viola just have one beast, in the way that you could control it is you could just basically go ahead and throw them out, and then you don't have to pick the attacks for Cheshire to do. Cheshire just attacks. And it's kind of a shame I didn't bring up the perfect dodging in this game, because the perfect dodging is so amazing, and it's one of the best things about the combat. One of my favorite things that I liked about Final Fantasy 16 was the fact that when you have a perfect dodge, it does the same thing and it slows down time, and you're able to just get combos off based on your dodges and stuff like that. So if a game has a perfect dodge, it's a perfect W for me. And I love seeing that type of stuff. And it was a shame that I didn't even bring it up in my other review, because it's what makes the combat shine in this game. When I brought up chapters in the last video, I talked about verses being hard to find and sometimes felt irritating to get a good score. While I still believe that to an extent, because I'm garbage at the game, I somehow managed to overlook the whole fact that within this giant story of a game, each chapter shows a mini story within it with so many new beasts, weapons, and characters to use. Getting into that right now, it just felt like every chapter had its new location and a new character to show off. I will also say though that I felt like they could have did so much more with the characters at hand. Every time you got into a new location, I felt like you kind of met a new character or a new Bayonetta, and it was just like you exchanged a few words and then it was like, okay, let's battle the blue monster. I really feel like they could have did so much more with that. It's still a very good story, and I felt like when I was talking about the chapters, I overlooked the whole part of it being like, hey, at least it's in different locations and it's telling a whole new story each time, and it doesn't feel like it's the same repetitive location map over and over and over again. You go into a different locations and dimensions all the time. It just feels feels like you're doing the same thing over and over and over again. But I am going to get into something right now. Just because the title says
I was wrong about Bayonetta 3.
that doesn't mean I'm going to be straight, like giving this game its flowers in this review. You thought I forgot about the platforming. Well, yeah, I did forget about the platforming, but I'm about to get on the case about the platforming in this game because the platforming, it's just so bad. It feels like when you're Bayonetta, you have little or no control of what you're doing in the air, especially if you double jump with whatever demon you have. The spider map where you have to literally platform from tower to tower, building from building, was the worst experience I had in a game in a very long time. And yes, I did play Scorn, so I know how bad experiences come when it comes about gaming. Like literally, I did not know where to jump, where to go. I was just straight falling off of buildings. The web, it wouldn't go too far sometimes, or it wouldn't be long enough. It was like, come on, man, make up your mind. It just felt so hard to platform and move around, which is awfully strange to me because I know they released a spin-off game that's basically platforming and puzzling at the same time. So I'm kind of curious to see how that game's gonna play out versus how I had experiences with platforming and puzzling in this game. But just a little heads up for you guys, I will be playing that game, so make sure if you want to see more Bayonetta content, you hit the like, subscribe, comment what you want me to play first, because I'm going to be playing Bayonetta 1, Bayonetta 2, and the spin-off game in due time. So you're going to make sure you want to check out this channel for that type of content. Getting into the next topic, I forgot to even glance over or talk about was the cutscenes of the game, but I love the way Bayonetta did it in this game. At a lot of the times when cutscenes are happening, they are so action-packed and have you at the edge of your seat wondering what is going to happen. 9 times out of 10, when a cutscene would happen, a lot of shit would go on to where you gotta pay attention. It felt like peak cinema at some points, especially near the end of the game. Adding the quick timing events as well as making you feel like every cutscene matters. Look, every time a cutscene happened in this game, I remember just sitting there and just soaking in what is going on, because it's really trying to put that story together that you don't fully get when you're just sitting there battling hordes at a time. Because yeah, battling hordes is one thing, but you really don't pick up what's going on in the story because it feels like you're fighting the same blue enemies every single time. So when the cutscenes happen, it really puts that story together. And going back to one of my favorite titles, Final Fantasy 16, it's kind of where that game took inspiration from this game, because I feel like when you tell a story with the cutscenes and they're so cinematic and they look so good and so hype and a lot of stuff is going down in these cutscenes, it brings you in and it keeps you more locked in and invested in the game that way. There has been so many times on this channel I've criticized video games for having bad soundtracks or just not having a good enough vibe to just make the game sleepy or a snooze fest. But I didn't even give Bayonetta 3 its flowers with the soundtrack it pushed out with this game. This game had so many good songs on the soundtrack, and it didn't hit me until I looked up Bayonetta 3 OST on YouTube to how many bangers this game actually had. Viola's battle song has to be one of the biggest bangers in gaming history that I ever listened to. I actually threw it in my gym rotation. That's how much it pumps me up. It's kind of repetitive after like the 4 or 5 minute, but there's a skip button for a reason. Tempo, beat, soundtrack, every time that you got into a fight, and it made combat and getting into a rhythm very good. If your hack and slasher doesn't have that rhythm or doesn't have a good movement to whatever songs is going on, it feels like it's just a drag at times and it doesn't really get you energized to perform those combos. I felt like I really am a hater for the way I treated this game in the first part of the review. I told myself when I made this channel, or at least made reviews, a focus for the future, that I would change the way gamers look at game reviewers, reviews, and journalists as a whole, to where voices matter in this type of the gaming sphere. I should have really have taken a lot of more time in Bayonetta 3 and actually go in order from the beginning if I was going to start this mission of the path to the hack and slasher, and I didn't. Even though I did nitpick in the first part of my review, and I did mean a lot of stuff that I did say in that review, I'm not saying that I didn't mean any of it. I really didn't give the game a chance in my review to say all the great stuff that is in that game. And I feel like even after writing my first script and the second script, I went back to watch some of the other reviews that a lot of people said about this game, and I feel like a lot of people kind of missed the fact and didn't realize a lot of great stuff that happened in this game as well. And I think it just gets overshadowed by a lot of stuff that is negative, and I realized that after typing out that review. And I listened it back to it and I was like, you know what? I didn't say enough good things about this game, because I did give it a 7 out of 10, and I still believe it could be a 7 out of 10, maybe possibly an 8 out of 10 with a lot of things that it does well. And I didn't give it that that chance. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening. This has been the Bayonetta 3 review part 2. If you do want to help support any more, I'm gonna throw two videos on the screen over here. On this side over here, we are gonna throw up the first part of the Bayonetta review, because if you guys didn't go back and click back and watch it like I told you to, let's throw it up right here so you guys can. And then over here, you guys should definitely watch out the Dave the Diver review. Dave the Diver is a great game, $20 game. Hey, you guys should definitely go and play it, because that game has been very good, very well reviewed, and definitely worth your guys' time. Other than that, be safe, tell someone you love them. This has been YouLoveNicktana. We're out.